Okay. Hello. Hello, Abigail.
I gotta move my progress marker so I can see how much progress I make today.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Always exciting. As always, I am in the middle of several large projects, none of which I'm able to work on while talking. So I think I'm gonna do what I've done before, which is work on those cute little hair pieces.
All right.
Like flowers and things. So
Well, I've got a mundane, repetitive project I'm going to start with. And then I have my first color work project that I could try, but I have a feeling following a color work pattern while chatting might not work.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah. I am working. Oh, I just took my needle protectors off. I should put them back on so I can hold it up. I'm working on the same sweater I was working on last time, though. I have once again unraveled and re-knit parts of this multiple times because the same problem that I bought this yarn that is slightly different colors of green, and so I've been blending the colors, figuring out the best way to do that. Anyways, but I'm here. I finished one sleeve.
Ooh.
And now I am doing ribbing on the body. It's split though, so I have to do it flat, which I don't like. Yeah, but I just have to do the ribbing on the front and the back and then do one last sleeve and it should be done. And hopefully it will look okay. I don't know. There's some mistakes that I've had to redo and some that I'm I'm just going to live with it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you say it's split, does that mean it's a split hem? Is that?
Yeah. So I've been doing it in the round, and then there's going to be a front flap and a back flap for the hem.
Cool. Yeah. Well, it's looking beautiful.
Thank you. But knitting flat is always annoying.
I can't remember if I was doing this project last time we got together because I ripped it out and started over.
Mm.
This is a headband. Was I doing a headband last time? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think you were talking
about a headband.
Okay.
Yeah, because at some point, I picked it up and went the wrong direction.
Oh, yeah.
So then half of it was shorter than the other half.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so then I ripped it all out and started over again. Because I wasn't sure how to find the spot that I messed up. And so I just was whatever. It was only 2 inches of work, so it was not a big deal.
Yeah. I have had to do that so many times. So I feel I am once again, I remember this happening last time I did this, and yet apparently I learned nothing. I need to figure out which pattern I was using. I even marked the one I was using, knowing this would happen again, and it still isn't helping me. Oh. Here we go. If anybody is hanging out in the comments, feel free to say hello. Let us know what you're working on, or if you're just chilling, that's cool too. Actually, wait. Let me see if here I am just searching on my computer.
I've been thinking after I finish this sweater, I want to do a color work sweater. So I have some in mind of what pattern I might use, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
The part of what has sort of I mean, I've kind of always intended that I wanted to do a color work sweater at some point because I want to try it. They look so cool. But also, since I have been, like, as I've been knitting this, and I've been doing, it's obviously not color work, but I've been trying to like blend the colors by like alternating skeins and stuff. And like, that's less complicated than color work. But
Yeah.
it's been fun to like, I kind of enjoy like having to alternate the skeins and like blend the colors and like do all of, and so I was like, maybe I would like color work because you have to alternate colors and stuff.
Yeah.
So that sort of has prompted me to be like, maybe that should be my next thing that I try.
Yeah. Well, as you guys know, I am a big believer in your excitement sort of guiding your craft learning journey. Like,
yeah. Make what you're excited about, because like that's what's going to make it fun, and also make it so that you're like, I can figure this out because I want this.
Right.
You know?
Like it's perfect motivation if you're like, I really want to do this.
So. I am going to pause you or mute myself for a second because I realized I have not been moving my yarn back and forth, so I need to look up how to undo twisted knit.
So you got it.
I'll mute you for a second.
Okay. But yeah, so that's my next plan.
Yes.
Although I have found that for some reason, when it comes to knitting, I have a hard time like picking colors for knitting. And like, I don't know why, but it like imagining what the colors will look like when I knit them together, because I'm like, obviously, like with sewing, I have to do that. With crocheting, I have to do that. And I've never had a problem like having a vision for like, these are the colors that I want. And for some reason with knitting, I'm just like, I don't know what's going to look good.
But like, that kind of makes sense to me because it's like the knitted fabric looks different from crocheted fabric. And so to me, it actually makes a lot of sense that the visualization would be different. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just weird to me because I'm like, usually this is not a thing I have problems with.
Yeah.
So I keep like just finding knitting patterns that I go like, I'm just going to make exactly this because I like the colors they pick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe, well, I mean, that's not a bad thing, but at some point I want to get more creative with like picking my own colors and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I think I told you, I think it was on like an Instagram post where you had shared that sweater you were working on. It's funny because like I had recently got yarn that is like that exact shade of green. Like, because I love that color.
Did you get?
What's that?
What brand yarn did you get?
Good question. I think it was Fiber Space, maybe. It's like a UK brand. I think I had a coupon.
Yeah. I know of Fiber Space. I have some yarn from them. But like, I'm just curious because this is a color that I really like, and I probably will make more things in this color green, but I don't know if I like this yarn exactly. And so I'm like, I'm still trying to find this color in other like fiber bases, you know?
Yeah. It was either Fiber Space or Vivacious Decay, but I don't know if that's part of, like, I don't remember if that's like under the same umbrella, but I can find.
Yeah, Vivacious Decay is, I actually have a tag that is Fiber Space Vivacious Decay because I made something out of that, but in a different color.
Okay, so I think that might have been what it was then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Luckily, I only did like 4 stitches, so I don't have much to take out.
Oh, great.
But I've just never taken out a twisted stitch, so I'm just like, what?
Yeah. I understand.
It seems to be pretty much the same as taking out a regular knit stitch. So that's good.
But Kara, did I interrupt what you were saying about buying that yarn? I just was like, wait a minute, where did you find that color?
No. I think that's all I was saying is that like it was perfect because you were talking about how much you enjoyed that color green. And I'm like, this is like my exact favorite color of green, and
Yeah.
I have yarn to prove it.
Do you know what you're planning to make with it, or you just get it because it's a nice color?
I have like ideas about tops that I might want to make with it. I haven't like decided though.
Yeah. Well,
Hi, Krista. Not crafting today, but still wanted to say howdy. Hello.
hey.
Yes, our crafting sprints are very what's the word I'm looking for? They are loosely defined. Like, you don't need to craft.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's also good to know that they have this color in that base, because I feel like the Fiber Space Vivacious Bouquet is very similar to a lot of like, it reminds me a lot, of like the Malabrigo,
Mm-hmm.
like superwash kind of base. It's
Yeah.
easy to work with. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is Malabrigo, but this is not one of their like superwash.
Okay. Yeah, I pretty much have to use superwash if I'm doing wool or wool blends, because I just am really sensitive to scratchiness. Like,
Yeah.
So. I love looking at file names, and it's like, what was this for? Like, why did I name something this? Like, I'm gonna spend the whole craft sprint just like, what was I making?
What did I call it?
Exactly. Where did I put it? I might, if I honestly can't figure it out in a timely manner, I might just like start doing something else. Like, there's like a couple headbands that I've been wanting to make, so I might do one of those.
That is also a good choice.
Yeah.
I would not recommend making this headband. I'm regretting my choices. Because it's all twisted rib.
Mm.
And I'm like, I kind of decided I hate twisted rib in like large quantities. It's like fine doing like the rib of a sweater or a hat, but then to make an entire project going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. That's how I feel about just regular ribbing. I like twisted rib a little bit better because I feel like having the extra, or having the slightly different placement, makes it feel, I guess, less annoying to me. But yeah, I'm not a fan of, in general, having to do ribbing for like inches and inches and inches. Like, I know that it's important for construction, obviously, so it's not like I can just ignore it, but every time I have to do it, I'm like,
yeah.
The necessary evil.
I'm doing ribbing right now, and I'm not having a good time.
What kind of ribbing are you doing?
I'm doing 2x1 ribbing. So 2 knit, 1 purl. I like the way it looks.
Yeah, it's like
and like having the 2 knit stitches in a row like makes it a little bit easier for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. Just not going back and forth every time is helpful.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's the perfect, by which I mean awful, combination of like, it's incredibly boring and repetitive, but it's not easy to do mechanically, because you're constantly flipping back and forth. So it's like, I'm bored, but I can't even like zone out and do stuff,
Yeah. Oh, and so I got the bright idea because with this, my first color work project is a hat, and I took a class, like a one-on-one, just to like learn. But she's like, okay, come to the class having finished your ribbing. Like, she's like, just do 2 inches of ribbing for a hat. I'm like, okay. But then I was like, I've never made a hat with a double rib, like a folded rib. And so I was like, I'm going to do that. So like I ended up doing this much ribbing before the class. And then so by the time I got to the class, I'm like, I'm done. And I didn't obviously it's different doing the color work, but I was like, I've just been doing ribbing for like
Yeah.
3 days straight.
Yeah.
Ready to be done with this project.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll see like a really pretty like sweater or like top design, and then I look at it more closely and I'm like, that whole thing is knit and ribbing. I will never make this. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Like the idea of doing like a couple hundred stitches or however many like across the entire sweater for the entire sweater, I'm like, I could not.
Yeah.
I would, yeah, just not have a good time. And I'd never finish it because I'd be like, I hate this.
Yeah.
Why did I do this to myself?
I would only consider the ones where it's like really wide, where the stripes are like big, you know, so that you're not going like back and forth, back and forth. You get to do like 10 knits, 10 pearls, 10 knits, 10 pearls, you know.
Yeah.
That would maybe be okay.
Yeah, I would be willing to try that one, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hello, I'm working on a sweater hem right now. Definitely my least favorite part of a sweater. Yeah, especially I believe hems are usually ribbing, so you fit.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm doing right now. So get this boat together.
I don't know if Krista is still here, but she is. Hi. She had said hi.
Yes.
I don't know if that was while I was muted.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, I'm still, who knows what pattern I was using, so I think I am going to maybe pick something else to do.
I do like it though, like I feel like the first couple rows of ribbing are the most annoying, but then it gets to a point where it actually starts to look like ribbing, and then I'm like, well, at least it looks cool.
Yeah, it's like at least it's not like obnoxious to do, and it doesn't even look that good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did like the look of it on my hat. Like, it looks like ribbing. But I think my problem with this project is, since this is being mixed with mohair, it looks a lot more just like mush because of the fuzzies. Then I'm like, well, then you don't even see like the design that well. So then, like, why am I
Yeah.
Like, after I finish with this, because she wanted this project, she picked it, so I have to finish it. But then after that, I'm like, I'm never making this headband again. Like,
yeah. How do you like working with mohair?
Well, I haven't been having a problem with it. I just think it just looks kind of fuzzy, but so far it's been doing okay. Like, because I'm just doing it with a DK together. Yeah. I don't know, and I'm not doing like a huge project, so maybe if I was doing more.
I want to try using mohair sometime, but I'm not sure if it'll be too itchy for me.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's one of the reasons that I don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably should like just buy like one thing of like one skein of mohair, knit something small with it, and just like try wearing it. I'll make myself a little dicky. Just because honestly, like the problem of it being too itchy is always like right here around my neck.
Yes. Yeah.
So I could just make like this much of a yoke and just wear it.
Yeah. And please do. So you can update us on the next craft spread on your knitted dicky. Yeah. And I also I just prefer knitting with one strand. Like I really don't like holding yarn together. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It just isn't fun for me. Like the process of making stitches with multiple threads held together, for whatever reason, I'm like, I hate this. This is not knitting. Or it's not knitting in the sense that it's not the things I enjoy about knitting. Obviously, it is still knitting, but
yeah. I don't think I've knit with multiple strands before. I've crocheted with multiple strands, which it's a little more annoying, but it wasn't too bad.
I think it's I kind of don't pay attention to the mohair because it's so small that I'm like, if I kind of miss it a little bit, I'm not caring so much, like because it's so fuzzy, it all blends. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on the thicker. But maybe if I probably would not do a sweater like this, like a big project.
I think that if I was knitting with two string, like something I used to do when I was crocheting is also like I do not want to do the thing where you have like two balls of yarn that you're holding together. I would use, if I was knitting with two strands or crocheting with two strands, I would like roll them into a ball together. So I was just pulling from one ball of yarn.
Yeah.
And that made it like, it was an extra step, but that made it a lot easier.
I'm trying to think, like, how would that work with knitting? Could you do that too? Because I feel like it would tangle really badly, but I also might.
I don't think it would. You just have to roll it like, you know, you would make. I feel like it would be fine. I don't think it would be different.
Okay. Wow. That's like,
I don't know.
Don't quote me on it, Hook is saying.
What?
You're like, don't quote me on it, but
no responsibility. No.
I just have it in this, like in my yarn bowl, and not that that's like keeping them together, but it's keeping them from like rolling away from each other, like on the floor or on the couch or whatever.
Right.
So it keeps them in one place, and I'm not really caring so much if it gets tangled. I think I'm just not caring too much about this project to like.
This is the YOLO hat. Like,
I'm just like, whatever, because also ultimately the way this headband does is you make it twice as thick and then just stitch it together. You know what I mean? Like fold it over and stitch it. So if there was like some messy stuff on the back, it's gonna get stitched in. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Can't really care that much.
It's too easy to only knit into one strand when you hold multiple together. Definitely more fiddly. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think having to keep track of that and almost like aim differently, I think is like the biggest part of why I don't enjoy it. Like, for whatever reason, it doesn't like press the buttons of the fiddly things that I enjoy about knitting. It's like annoying instead of satisfying.
Yeah.
For me.
I think one of the things, this is not exactly related, but a thing that I sometimes see and then I'm like, oh, that looks cool, but I think that would be annoying to knit, is those like, I've seen like a lot of sweaters where it is like mohair, so it's very fine, but then they knit it with like really chunky needles. So it's very open weave kind of thing. And I think it looks cool, but I'm like, that would annoy me so much because it'd be so hard to control the tension because it's such a thin yarn with such a chunky needle.
Yeah.
I also I think just for me personally, I tend not to get interested in projects where it's like, I would only be able to layer this. Like, I could never.
That's the other thing. Is like, when do you wear this? Like, I think it looks cool, but in what scenario am I wearing this thing?
Well, I guess you guys live in warmer climates, so you probably aren't layering as much as us.
But also it has holes in it. Like, it's very loose weave, so it doesn't really keep you warm.
Yeah. It's like a draped like spider web type of
exactly like a spider web.
Though I would probably wear that with if I have one of my long sleeve just plain colored shirts, then I would wear that as interest over my plain, because I wear a lot of just plain wool shirts that are basically base layers. And then
that could work for sure.
So then you could wear that over it, so it looks like you're wearing more than just a plain old shirt. Because I need to wear my plain. I mean, it doesn't have to be plain. I guess they sometimes come in stripes and stuff, but I wear a lot of plain wool base layers in the winter.
Because
because I need that like under by my skin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping my husband's home and not my kid making that noise. I should check if he's home because he had gone to take our other daughter to a play date. Oh, I hear him. Okay, so it is him.
Good.
I'm like, what is my 7-year-old doing up there, like dropping large things?
Yeah. Confirmed to be an adult.
So she's okay. Because she was also doing crafts when I left her. Like she was just sitting there stapling random pieces of paper together. And I was like, whatever. I'm going to be downstairs if you need me.
Yeah. Happy stapling.
Yeah. She likes to make little books like that she draws in. So she
Mhm.
staples a bunch of pieces of paper together and then goes through and
Aw,
draws them.
cool.
Sounds fun.
So are you all reading something to distract you from the world?
Yes and no. Like I think last time we were crafting, I mentioned that like I just haven't been reading very much, which is unusual for me because normally when I'm really stressed and worried, that is like the thing that can turn that off for a while. And it's not working for me as much right now, which is not fun. But I think I'm slowly getting back into the swing of it, which makes me happy because obviously I love reading. And it's just like an uncomfortable feeling to be like, this thing that always makes me feel better is not working and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think I'm starting to get back into it, thankfully. I just finished Holly Horror by, let me look up the author so I don't misremember it. But it's a like YA horror spooky vibes, but in a way that I could handle. Like some of it is like very creepy, but it's done in a way that I still really enjoyed. Because I'm pretty particular about like spooky things like that. And it was just like the vibes and the atmosphere and like the creepiness, it like was perfect to get me really invested and also to kind of take my mind off things. So the author is Michelle Habes Corpora. And I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. There's like, creepy apparitions and like a missing. It's one of those where like the house, there's like something not right with it. And you find out that there's like multiple scary things that have happened in this house over the years. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was very gripping.
I have a lot of things that I'm technically reading right now. But I have two things that I'm like actually like actively reading. So my physical book is Jeweled Fire by Sharon Shin, which is the third book in her Elemental Blessings series. Which I am liking. I loved the first book and then didn't really like the second book. But I feel like third one, we're going back up.
Good.
So yeah, and I think part of what works, like there are a lot of things that are making it work better. Like one, the main character is just more interesting, but also it's like the story. I feel like Sharon Shin just does better when the romance is not central and it's like just a whisper of a romance in the background.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is amazing. But when she tries to do like a central romance, I'm like not into it.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the problems with the second book. But this one is back to just like whisper of of romance in the background, where it's like 40% into the book. Maybe they just flirted for the first time.
That's what I enjoy. Like,
yeah,
I want to be questioning, am I reading too much into this?
Again, like, am I imagining this?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it also means that there's like an actual plot line where it's like the main character's at this like, court in like another country. and she went there for her own reasons, but then suddenly it's like, there have been some mysterious deaths recently.
Maybe I should look into that.
Yeah. She's like, maybe I am not safe here. But yeah, so that is good. I'm about halfway through that one, and I'm really liking it. And so I think I was kind of, after the second book, I was like, I'm going to read the third one because I already have it, and I'm going to decide from there if I'm continuing the series, because I didn't like the second one very much.
Yeah.
But I think that I probably am going to continue the series now, because I'm like, all right, the second book was maybe a blip, but hopefully the rest of the series is good.
Yeah.
How many are there? Sorry.
There are 5, but then I also saw that there might be another one coming out this year, but it's like, I saw it on like the publisher website, but it's not listed anywhere else, and so I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I am like super behind on all booktube things right now, so I haven't quite caught up with wrap-ups from people, so I'm glad to know that you are mostly enjoying Sharon Shin, because she's an author that like I keep wanting to try. I don't think I've read. No, wait, maybe I'm mixing her up with a different author. I'll have to look and see if I have actually read a book from her. But in general, that series.
Wrote Summers at Castle Auburn.
I haven't read that one yet, but I have it, and I'm excited.
You know what that one is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think you're the one who gave me that book.
I think I did.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, just so for like context of like, that's who she is. If you're place her.
Hello, Natalie. I also love a whisper of a romance in the background. Yes.
Well, you might like Sharon Shin.
That is my perfect.
Although, yeah, I will say in Elemental Blessings, at least, second book, not great. Also, there's just like a couple things that I don't think were handled super well in the second book. So it's kind of like, honestly, I feel like you could probably like skip the second book and just read a couple bullet points of what happened and then just keep going, because it's like that one's not really necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, right. But so that's my physical read. And then today I just started an audiobook. I just started listening to Green Teeth. That I don't remember the author's name, but it's a new release. It came out this year. Hold on, I can look up the author name in a second. But it's about, like, it's a kind of a retelling of Jenny Greenteeth, which is like a folk tale. Where did I find it? But it's a folk tale that like I did not know of until this book came out. So it's been interesting. I have no idea where my phone is, so I can't look up the author name. Well, I guess I could. I have a computer in front of me. Hold on.
I have heard of it. I heard Angela from Literature Science Alliance had read that, and I heard her review.
Oh, did she like it or not?
She did.
Okay, yeah. Because I've been hearing good things about it.
Yeah, and I had heard people comparing it to T. Kingfisher, and so, but I don't know that that's always a good comparison, because I think if anybody has like an older character, they're always like, "Oh, it's like T. Kingfisher." I'm like,
yeah.
There's a certain vibe that she has.
The author is Molly O'Neill. But, well, here's the thing. Actually, as I was reading this, I did actually think it reminded me a little bit of Thornhedge.
Oh, okay.
So it's more, which I was not that, I'm enjoying this more than Thornhedge. Like, I didn't dislike Thornhedge, but I kind of was like, all right, I felt like it needed a little something more to it, personally. But yeah, if you I could see that comparison, because I had thought like, yeah, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the vibes of Thornhedge.
There are certain like comp titles or comp authors that I like just try to train myself to ignore, because I feel like the things that people are referencing with that, not that they're wrong, but they're just not the things that I associate with that author. And so I go into a book expecting something, and I don't get it, and I'm like disappointed, even though it's not necessarily the fault of the book. So like,
Yeah.
there's some authors where I'm like, it doesn't matter that people who use that author's name don't think about it. Don't expect that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, I think you misunderstood what people liked about this book and why you would make that comparison.
Exactly.
I feel like that happens to me a lot with comparisons to like the Raven Cycle. That I'm like, okay, you're comparing this because psychics. That's not the reason I like this book.
Yeah. It's about the vibes, man.
Yeah. Like their vibes and also like certain character tropes and relationships.
And like the friend group and the family
Yeah.
stuff. Like, yeah.
I still have yet to read the Raven Cycle. Maybe I should get around to that.
Oh my god. Yeah, read it.
There's just certain like big ones that I just missed, and then it's like, well, is it too late? And then because some are too late. Like I feel like I tried to pick up, what was the one Marie Lou wrote?
Was it Young Elites or
Like the Legend one.
Oh yeah.
Legend. And I was like, okay, this probably would have been amazing when it first came out, but I missed the boat and it was not working for me. But then there are other ones that I think stand up to the test of time that I think I would actually like. But then it's knowing which one it is, you know?
Yeah.
Well, like I have debated multiple times like trying Legend, because even though I don't like dystopian in general, and the premise doesn't do anything for me, I have really enjoyed, I think, everything that I've read by Marie Lu, even the stuff that like wasn't as popular. So I'm kind of like, I don't know, tempted.
For example, though, I was like, what? Why are you reading this then? If you're like, I don't like dystopian. And like, what was the other thing you said? I've never liked something else.
Oh, the premise doesn't
The premise is not
like, I don't really like anything about what this book is about.
It does nothing for me. I'm gonna read it. Like
yeah. I think what got me with that book that I didn't like, I don't think it was like a bad dystopian. Like I think the plot was probably fine, but it was like very heavy on the relationship and the like, will they, won't they? But then I'm like, you guys are in a life or death situation. And it's like it was like the romance or relationship was over the life or death situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't get, I like there to be a little romance, like we said, but it's like, okay, like look at Hunger Games. They're in a life or death situation. And yes, there's some romance in it, but Katniss is always aware that she could die and that's more important than the romance.
Yeah.
And so that's like the level I need in a dystopian where there are very real stakes, where I felt like in Legend, it's like stakes. Who needs stakes when there could be a relationship? Like, so I need like the stakes to be given like their due, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know like where, and Raven Cycle's not a dystopian, so I guess it would be in a different category.
Yeah. And like, well, yeah, I mean, it is, I think, at least with the Raven Cycle, like, yes, it's not a dystopian. And also, it's like, it's not like, oh, there's a plot and the romance is distracting from the plot. It's more like, this is about the character relationships. Not all of them being romantic, but it's like, that is the point.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one that would, I mean, it's a favorite series, so I might be biased, but I do feel like it's one that would stand the test of time. Like, I think that you can still enjoy it as an adult.
I mean, I read it for the first time as an adult, I think, and really enjoyed it.
Wait a second. What did I just do? Oh, I see. Okay. But yes, I read it as an adult also. Although I guess I was in my 20s probably when I read it. But my mom read it and also liked it. So, you know, I don't know if that helps you at all.
Well, we know it'd be a good sign for me. Exactly. Your mom and I have identical reading tastes, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I will give it a try. I have so many other ones though I'm starting that I probably should stop starting series and not like, because I am also reading too many books, but maybe not actively reading them. I don't know. This month I feel very distracted, so I just keep like, oh, I must need this genre, and then I start that, and then I'm like, no, I must need this genre, and start that, and now I just have started like all the books.
Yeah.
So I am listening to the new Emily Henry book. So that's like romance, but I did put it down for like the last like 5 days. So am I actually like listening to it? And then I'm reading Little Women because that's a buddy read I'm doing with like a friend of mine. So we're taking our time because, like she doesn't read as much as me. So we only read a few chapters a week. So that's classic. And then I started Ember in the Ashes, which is another one of those like, I was like, oh, I don't want to miss the boat on this if it's good. It seems like it's still holding up. I need to start the series. So that's like fantasy, and then I started like a mystery, and then last night I was like, I feel like reading a gothic romance. And so
I don't know if this would help. Like what I sometimes do when I'm in one of those weird reading moods where it's like, I think I want this. No, didn't work. I think I want this. Like I won't even add them to currently reading. I won't even think of them as currently reading until I like settle on them. And so then I don't feel like I've started a bazillion books. It's more like I am trying to figure out which book to start. I don't know if that would like make a difference for you, but for me it does, because I get very stressed when I have like a zillion books on Goodreads that it tells me I'm reading when I'm actually not. So that has helped me, but I don't know if that would be relevant to you.
Also, like I created a pause shelf on Goodreads. So like if there's a book that I start and then I'm like, you know what, I'm not really reading this anymore, but I'm not DNFing it either, I can move it to my pause shelf.
Yeah.
Which I need to do that with some, because I have a pause shelf as well for that reason, so it doesn't loom over me. And I have probably about 5 books am I currently reading that I haven't read in like a month, so those need to be moved to my pause shelf.
Use the pause shelf.
Yeah.
Natalie says, sampling a soupçon of each book.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or like, when they do, it's like professional ice cream tasters or whatever, they have like the tiny spoon, like the tiniest spoon in the world, and they're like, yes, like, that's how they like sample it. That's what I'm picturing. Just a tiny little bit of each book.
Well, there was that like, I feel like there was a trend at one point of doing like try a chapter tag, which is like a similar concept, maybe a little more structured, but it's like, it's sort of sampling to figure out what you want to read.
Yeah.
Well, the problem I thought I had was that I was reading a lot of like very, not necessarily depressing, but like intense books for a while.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, now I need to like read something fluffy. But then I had started Ember in the Ashes, and I'm like, oh wait, this is gonna have a lot of death.
Yeah.
So it's not entertaining, like engaging.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do I need this much death? So that's when I was like, oh, let's pick up this romance. Let's pick up this gothic romance. Let's do, and then the mystery. And I'm like, oh, but then there's dead people in that. So like,
yeah. I am super interested to hear what you think of An Ember in the Ashes, because I read it years ago. I was very underwhelmed, but there's something about like Saba Tahir and the way people talk about her books that I'm like, I feel like I would like you. Like I want to. So I don't know. Maybe I'll
want to like you.
I know, exactly. Why won't you let me enjoy your books? I kind of want to keep an eye out, I guess, for like, I know she's come out with a couple other things since then, so maybe I'll look into those. But
well, I heard her most
Ashes. So
what?
I liked An Ember in the Ashes, so we have range of opinion.
Yeah. Did you continue? Like, did either of you continue after the first book, or Kara, you said you didn't love it?
I did not. I didn't continue.
Yeah, I did the whole series, but I did them as audiobooks.
Okay.
I liked the audiobooks. So.
I didn't do maybe I should do the audiobook, but I didn't because I really like the new covers they came out with. So I was like, and they're big and floppy. And I'm like,
love a floppy paperback.
I do love to read from a big floppy paperback.
Yeah.
and the first book has like a tiger on the front or something, and I'm like, oh, I like it. So so I've been like wanting to read it physically, but then maybe I would get into it more. I don't know. I think it was because I had been rereading The Hunger Games to read the new book, and so then there was just too much like young people death in a row, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, and Ember in the Ashes kind of starts off intense with some people dying. So I was like, okay, let's maybe not do so much as of that.
Yeah, there are some books that I have like really been wanting to read, but I have not, because I'm like, these are heavy, and like, I mean, not that things aren't happening in the books that I'm reading right now. As I said, in Jeweled Fire, it's like people are dying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have as like heavy a tone, you know?
Yeah. Well, and like, no, I totally get that, because like my brother doesn't understand why like there are certain things that in like TV shows or something like really get to me and upset me, and I like don't enjoy it. Like I don't want to watch things that have them, but like I can read books that deal with those topics like very heavily.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to explain. It's like, well, no, like for one thing, when I am choosing books to read, I am sort of in control of how, like when I approach something or how I do it. And like, I don't know, like I'm good at monitoring my own reading. So I kind of know when I'm like, all right, I don't think I'm ready for this book yet, kind of thing. But also, even aside from that, I feel like there is like everybody has like different like levels or different tones that wouldn't necessarily make sense to an outside viewer of like, well, how can you read this but not read that right now? And it's like, I can't explain it to you. I can just tell you that this one is a much higher like emotional bandwidth for me.
Yeah.
And you know, like it's hard to explain because everybody has like different variations of that. So there are things that look like, technically speaking, as if they would be less heavy, but I'm like, oh, I can't read that right now. It would really upset me. So anyway, that's a rambling way to say I get it.
Yeah. No, I mean, also though, if you're in the, I mean, that's true from like book to book, but especially if you're comparing like watching something on TV versus reading a book, it's very different to like imagine something as opposed to like seeing stuff happen. Also, I think there is something about how like the brain has a harder time differentiating what is like real or not when you're watching it. Like if you see a horrific thing happen, your brain doesn't necessarily know that that didn't literally happen in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with like visual things. Like I cannot watch horror, but I can read some horror, and it just is because my brain can like, this is how I'm going to picture this in a way that I can handle, where when somebody else is doing the imagery,
yeah,
I don't know what level of graphicness they are going to create, you know?
Yeah.
And it'll stick. That image will stick in my mind, as opposed to if I didn't fully form it in my brain when I was reading it, then that image won't stay in my brain.
Yeah. Also, you can I think you have more control over how you engage with it also, just because like when you're reading, if you hit a scene that you are like, I don't want to read this, you can just kind of skip or skim it and just be like, we don't need to see this scene of, you know, torture right now. Like, I get it. They got tortured, you know?
Or you can even, I feel like with reading, you can even like, not distance yourself, but it's like you can sort of slightly, it's almost like when your eyes slightly unfocus, but like internal, you know, like I feel like when you're reading, it's easier, kind of like you're saying, it's like skimming almost, where like it's not that you aren't reading it, but you're like, okay, this is gonna be rough for me, so I'm gonna kind of just skate over it and like not
like
not
fully immersing. You're just sort of like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
I also think that music can really change how things stick in your brain.
Mhm.
And like horror films, obviously there are people that their whole job is to pick the correct music to go with the scene to make it like more intense and to make your heart rate go up and put you in that state where you don't have that when you're reading a book. You don't have that that other sensory coming in, changing how you like are feeling in that moment, even if you're not visually seeing anything.
Yeah. And I think for me, and I don't know if this is something like most, maybe everybody experiences this, but like when I am reading or watching something, it is not necessarily, I mean, maybe on a neurological level it is, but it feels like it's not that I am losing track of if it's real. It's that like I get upset because there are things like this that do happen, like sometimes I'll be talking to someone and they're like, yeah, but it's not real. And I'm like, I know it's not real. Like, I am not like misunderstanding what television is. My point is that this is upsetting because this kind of thing happens in the real world all the time. Like, right. I have read about it happening. I know about it happening. So it's not that like the TV fooled me. It's that like I am responding based on the real background of something. And I think that is sometimes not understood.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to people.
And you're seeing people, like real people, experience in the movie, and even though obviously that actor is not experiencing it, it's still like a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
I think seeing that.
Exactly. I think it connects to like seeing a real person experience it. It connects it even more immediately to the real people in the real world who experience it. Although I will say like that also happens to me when I read all the time, is like it's like I will respond to something not because for a second I think it's real, but like because I know that these things are real. They might not be real in this specific example, but it does happen.
Yeah. We went to see a play last night, and I'm still like feeling emotionally spent from watching that because of the connection to real life. So we went to see Cabaret last night.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I mean, like, you know what Cabaret is about. Like,
yep.
Do you know Cabaret, Huck?
Nope.
So Cabaret was it was from the 60s, this musical, but it's taking place in Germany at the rise of the Nazis.
Okay.
But it's taking place at a cabaret, like at a nightclub. But you're seeing what is happening at that time through the lives of these people in this nightclub and this like boarding house connected to the nightclub. And having that shown at this time, like you could see like the I don't know if you remember how the first act ends. Like it's kind of like there's a moment where we first kind of switch to lots of joyful singing and like body cabaret nightclub scenes to like where we first really see the Nazis come in, and everybody like you get to an end to a song and everybody claps because you're clapping for the singers. And like literally you could hear a pin drop in that theater. Like nobody clapped. Like everybody was like silent.
Yeah.
At the end of that song. And I was like, this is an intense moment that we are having right now. Like,
yeah.
And then at the end of the show, you could see like, usually there's that, even if you're watching a sad show or like it's a intense theater experience or whatever, like it's supposed to be like a satire or tragedy, there's usually like a moment where the lights go down and then they like turn on.
Yeah, curtain call,
and we are bringing back to reality, and everybody's like smiling because they did a great job in the show. You could see it on the faces. These are students. It's at the college. You could see it in the students' faces that they weren't coming back to like reality.
Yeah.
It was so strange. It was probably one of the strangest like theater experiences I've had. And part of it I think is that this school has just like last week had like one of their international students taken by ICE, and that person had a student visa, so was here legally. And so I think it's like all of that, everything's happening. Like they did, like it was probably the most intense like curtain call I've ever seen. And my husband and I leave and we're like, I don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
Like right now, of like, we watched the show, they did great, like the music is catchy and fun, but then it's like, it's obviously a very intense experience relating it to like current affairs.
Yeah. It sounds like it was obviously for really horrible reasons, but it sounds like it was a very appropriately handled and like performed. And I mean, as you said, it is certainly relevant.
Yeah, and you could just see it on these students of like just that they know what they're performing and the relevance to it. And I wish we could have stayed. Our babysitter had to go home, but last night they were having like a professor that is like the professor of like Holocaust remembrance committee or whatever that's in the school was doing like a talk back after the show, and it had already been like a 3-hour show, so we like couldn't stay to do that, but I'm sure that would have been a really interesting talk to stay for.
Yep.
But like I feel like after that, usually when we come from a show, we kind of are talking about it, and both of us were like, I just feel like we need to sit in some silence right now.
Yeah.
Not really discuss what just experienced like yet.
Yeah. Well, it's like different things take different ways to process it.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Yeah. Natalie also had said, sound is a huge part of horror films. Sometimes I watch on mute with subtitles to make it less scary. I have done that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I used to, like, I was in a horror films class in college because it was like part of the communications department or whatever, but I was a little scaredy cat, so I used to just take my glasses off.
Yeah.
Everything was a little fuzzy.
Yeah. Nice. Life hack. I love it.
I was like, I'm still experiencing, I'm hearing what's going on. I can still join the conversations, but I don't have to have all the imagery.
Yeah. Or sometimes what I'll do is like, I'll sort of intentionally divide my attention where like I keep it on because it's not like I don't want to just skip over the whole scene, but I'll be like on my phone, or I'll be like, I'll look down at like my knitting or something, and I'll really focus on like what I'm doing. So it's like I am still aware, I am still gathering information from the story, but I am not like, it's not like right in my face, you know? So I get you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not getting very far. It's like not.
It's ribbing. It like takes forever to feel like you make progress. So I've done a little bit. I found a different pattern because I couldn't remember the one I had been using. So I am doing sort of a similar thing. I'm just like making like flower decorations to put on some like hair accessory type things. And I'm kind of just like making a bunch of these so that I can figure out how I want to group them later. Because I did sort of like a test one, and I really liked how it came out. So now I'm just like, I don't know, doing whatever, and I'll make it look nice later.
Yeah. That's fun. How's your ribbing going, Huck?
It's going all right. You know, I have this much now. I have like, if you get there, you have like that much. I was like, I'm not sure how much you can actually see what I'm doing. But you know, I've been chugging along. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows now, I think. So the nice thing about doing this like split hem, even though I don't like knitting flat, is that it's half the width of the body. So it feels faster.
Yeah.
So then on the back, I'm assuming all the way back you have to do purl knit, right?
Yes, which is very annoying. And also was the thing that I had to do. So on the sleeve, the way the sleeve is going to be, it's supposed to be rolled, so it's going to be like this. And so on the sleeve, I had to do the whole thing purl knit, so that when it folds back,
Oh yeah.
purl. But it took me a minute to be like, wait. So
That makes sense. Like, I had that thing when I did my hat, and I was like, and the book just said, if you want a double or a double like a fold, just make twice as much. And then I was thinking about like, okay, but then at the end, it's gonna look like the back because they didn't tell me to switch how I do it. So it definitely looks different when you fold it out. I mean, I don't think it looks bad. It just looks different.
Kelly, do you know, do they mean that you just flip it and sew it? Because when I was thinking like double knit, like you knit a certain amount and then you fold it sort of the opposite way so that you are seeing the right side.
Mm-hmm. Well,
do you know what I mean?
The hat was, so they're like, so this is like, you know,
right.
And then when I fold it, you'll see this side.
Yeah, so flip it the other way.
The other way.
Yeah, flip it the other way.
But then,
yeah, that's what like a double thick hem or collar usually looks like.
Yeah,
it might be different in your pattern. Like I don't know what your pattern says, but
then I can't like flip the top part of my hat, and maybe I should have. Like maybe I needed to flip it first when I started the body. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to imagine like what we're talking about.
I know. I'm like picturing. I was like,
because now I'm gonna get onto the design, so I have to. I mean, unless I'm gonna fold it under, but like normally when you wear a hat, you fold it up.
Well, so I'm saying that you would fold it under and you knit it down, like you sort of knit it together.
Yeah. Oh, you're saying like knit it down.
Like,
okay.
That's what I did on my collar. So I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but see there's like a seam right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's because like I knit double and then folded it down and knit it together.
Oh,
and
okay.
Sewing.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never seen that because I've always just like when you wear a beanie, you would just
right.
Right.
So.
Well, and maybe since it is for a beanie, like you said, that's usually how you wear it is like you fold it. So maybe that's not what they mean. It's weird that they don't specify though.
Yeah,
because those are two very different things.
I mean, I don't think it looks like bad or anything. It just looks different.
No, it looks good.
It looks more like, I don't even know how to describe it. You know, like this way the twisted V is, tight, and then when you fold it up, it's more open.
Yeah. But it looks good, so
I think I'll be fine. I just was like, oh, if I wanted it to look like that, I should have done it, and then maybe like flipped my work or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's very weird to me that they don't. Yeah, that they didn't specify either direction. You know?
Yeah. Well, this book is very much just like a guidance kind of thing. It's more like because it's like a bunch of color work things. They're like, pick what you want to do, and they're like, oh, if you're gonna do a hat, then just do this much ribbing and then start your color work. So it's not like
it's not focused on
pattern.
that. Yeah.
It's like, or if you're gonna do like a scarf, do 3 rows of regular knit on your background color before you start the color work, so it's very general directions.
Yep.
That's the only thing I'm like having trouble with. Like, I'm trying to like be more like, okay, I can create my own things. I just need to know like how you make a hat, and then I can create my own. But then I'm like, well, if I don't have a pattern, then I'm like, wait a minute, this is not exactly how I thought it was gonna look.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like a big deal because I also figure that this is my first color work hat, that it's probably not going to look perfect because
I'll be right back.
I'm still figuring out my tension on color work. So I'm sure it's going to be not the best hat in the whole world. And she taught me like 3 different ways to hold my yarn and color work. She's like, okay, I'm going to teach you it all, and then you just pick which one you want. And I'm like, all of these are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like, cool, I have options to be confused. Like,
yeah. She's like, so we get to the end. She's like, which one do you think you'll go with? I'm like, I don't know. They all seem hard, so I guess maybe I'll do a whole because we didn't have very much time. So this was just her teaching the basics, not like finishing the project. So she was like, I'm just going to show you these 3, and we'll do like a couple sections in each one, and then you can choose how you want to continue. And now I feel like what I need to do is do an entire round in each style and find out which one, because I feel like doing a couple sections of the pattern isn't enough to really tell me what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, and right now the pattern's not that exciting. Like, obviously I'm only like 2 rows in because that's all we had time to do. But like it's I don't know if you can even see since it's so beginning, it's only like a couple one color and then one the next color. So it's not even I can really tell at this point how it's going to look with each thing. So I'm like, I feel like I need to just do a couple rows with each technique.
Yeah.
And compare. And see which one I like the tension on or whatever. I'm treating this hat as just like I'm figuring it out.
Yes, I think that's great, honestly.
Before I move on to something that I actually want to look right. Because someday I would like to do a colorwork sweater, but I don't want to like start off on a colorwork sweater and then find out that I've messed it up. Like, Have you done much colorwork, Huck? If you said you're doing your sweater next?
I have never done color work.
So you also like to just jump in.
Yeah. But like, this is the thing. I'm picking a pattern that one has like a limited amount of color work, because there are a lot of patterns that are like all over color work, and I'm like, I'm not doing that first. We're doing one where it's just a little bit. And I've been trying to find one that has a pretty straightforward instructions that seem like they're pretty easy to follow. But also it's like, I'm sure that I will mess up and we'll need to fix things and stuff. But like, I was reading the chart and I'm like, you just do what the squares say.
Just do what the squares say.
Follow the squares.
Yeah.
The chart part wasn't the part that I was having trouble with. It's the what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the tension when you switch colors is going to be hard.
Yeah, because one thing, I am like a tight tension usually, and she just kept saying, don't hold it too tight, because if you hold it too tight, then like it's going to pucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm starting with this hat, and then I'm going to make my plain sweater, and then I could put both skills together.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably a smarter way to do it. Bless you. But, that's...
Do what makes you feel good, Huck. It doesn't
matter. What makes
matter.
you feel alive.
I've done some stranded color work, but I really want to get better at intarsia. I have never tried intarsia. I am curious about it. I feel like I haven't found a pattern that I'm like really wanting to do yet. So maybe when that happens, I'll try it. But what is your experience like with intarsia? Like, how has it, like, do you enjoy it? Is it something that you like the look of? So even if you don't like the process, you like want to get better? I want to know your intarsia thoughts if you would like to share.
What is intarsia? I'm still learning all these things.
So intarsia is when it is probably Kerber could describe it better, but it's like when the color work is segmented, like it's separated from, you're not carrying floats, you're not switching back and forth between colors.
Like if you had like a picture in the middle of a sweater,
you would just
like having a design that goes all the way around or something.
So you would get to that point, and then I think you do, is it like you wind yarn for almost like mini yarn cakes, and then you like do all the color work, and then you, I think, like tie that off and then you keep going.
Okay.
I mean, I've never done intarsia, but I've looked at patterns for it.
You're like, look
So
something
you're sort
up.
of an expert, are you saying?
Exactly. What are you
He says,
doing?
I really like the look, but have only tried it a handful of times and hated the process. LOL. Yeah, I for sure have techniques like that where it's like, this is so not fun, but I like the end result, so I suffer. I suffer for my art.
Merlin
Okay,
just decided to be feisty, so he's trying to like get me to play right now, and he's being annoying.
He says, I am more important than whatever is happening on your little box there.
I know. I always wonder what like animals imagine. Like, what do they think is happening that we're like staring at, phones and computer screens and all of this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even books. Even with books, he's like, "What is that? Like, you're not playing with it." Oh, you want a squeaky ball? Like, he just randomly his tail shows up, and just the tail.
Guest star Merlin's tail.
Yeah.
And only tail.
I did do on this sweater, part of my like trying to blend colors was within, because there were two that were like two different.
Mm-hmm.
And for one of the rows, I did, if they were different colors, it would have looked like color work, that I just did one by one. Like I switched every stitch, which color it was, so that it would be more like blended.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like color work if they were different colors.
Yeah.
But I can also tell that on those rows, my tension was a little looser than the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Although with this sweater so far, I have been intentionally having like tighter tension than I usually do, because there's something about the yarn. I think last time we did this, I was having problems with like the tension, and I sent you pictures about it. And I was like, I still like, it still is a little, it's still doing that thing where there's like one line that's straight and then there's sort of like a spiral next to it instead of being like V's. But at least it's even now because I have much tighter tension.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is about, but like that doesn't happen to me with other yarn. It's just this yarn. And so I don't know what it is about this yarn that makes it do that. But yeah, so anyways, I've been having much tighter tension in this sweater than I normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And those rows are like a tiny bit looser because I was switching back and forth.
I think I was working on it in one of our sprints, but do you guys remember when I was like making a kitty blanket for one of my other kitties? Because the first one I made was because Lego always gets all up in my knitting. He's like, ooh, soft things, I want to put my claws on them. And so I made like a decoy blanket for him, which has actually worked quite well. I'm very happy. And then I made one for another kitty of mine because I was like, well, he's like he kept like laying down on Lego's blanket with like just his paws on it, like, I wish I had a blankie. And I was like, okay, I will make you one. So now I think one of the next things I'm gonna work on is a blanket for Nala, who's my other cat, because I feel bad. I'm like, they all need to have one.
Also, there is a comment that is explaining this. Sorry, that is explaining my problem.
Oh, that shape has to do with the direction the fibers are spun, I believe.
Interesting. So I wonder if the fibers spun a different direction then.
Yeah.
usual? I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, thank you for that answer because I did not know that.
Yeah, because I've been trying to figure this out because I'm like, other times that I've knit, I get the normal like little V shape.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know how to knit. I'm not doing something weird. But this one's different.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Like I know that fiber can be spun in different directions, but I don't think I had thought about that affecting what columns of stitches look
if there's like a reason they would decide to spin the yarn in one direction or another.
Yeah. Interesting.
Where did you get this yarn?
This is it's Malabrigo, but it's Dos Tierras, which is it's like, I think it's 50% wool, 50% alpaca. And it's not super wash.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a DK weight, but it's pretty light for a DK. Would you stop that? What are you doing? All right. Merlin just recently has decided that he wants to eat the paper that is my knitting pattern. He doesn't normally eat paper. This is not a normal thing. It's just this one piece of paper.
He says, pay attention to me and not this.
I don't know.
Unless you dropped like something at some point when you were eating onto the paper, maybe.
That's possible, but I'm not I don't normally have it near food because I'm not knitting near food usually.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, yeah, I the most likely scenario is like something got on it that smells interesting to him, but I can't imagine what.
My cats have been like weirdly obsessed with cheese lately.
Okay.
And I don't associate cats and cheese as being like one of those things, but like every time my daughter has gotten a cheese stick out of the fridge, she's had a cat like in her face.
Like, my cats have like various cats I've had have always been like super obsessed with trying to get into cheese that people are eating. So like I don't know what it is, but yeah, like, and it's like most adult cats can't tolerate lactose, so it's like it's not like it would be bad for you.
Like, why are you obsessed with this thing? Yeah. And I asked her, I was like, did you feed him at some point that he likes this? And she's like, no. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm assuming, yeah, it's the smell, but yeah, he's been like all up in her face lately every time she's eating cheese. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
They're not usually like that with most like human food unless it's like tuna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they have been really interesting.
Essentially how Merlin is. He does not, for a dog, he is surprisingly not that like food focused. Like he loves food, but also like if I'm in the kitchen, he is not paying attention at all. He doesn't care if I'm making food in the kitchen. Maybe he just thinks the food I make doesn't smell that interesting. I don't know. Even like if we go over to my parents' house and like, you know, my dad's cooking or something, their dogs are in the kitchen watching every move. Merlin in like the living room chewing on a bone. Does not care at all unless I open tuna. And then he's immediately there.
That's so funny.
Maybe he had, like, I don't know, because usually dogs have such a sensitive nose. It's like maybe it's
like he has a very sensitive nose. I mean, he's a beagle mix.
Oh yeah,
so he's all about his nose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like I guess you could think like, oh, maybe he just can't smell it unless it's like a really strong smell. But he has a very good nose.
Yeah.
The nose is not the problem here.
The nose is not the problem. No, I had to like do this icebreaker question one time where somebody was asking like if your pet had like a job or a career, you know, like a person job, what would be their job based on like, you know, something about them? Like
I love that icebreaker.
Yes. And at the time I didn't have a good answer, but then I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, my first answer was Merlin would be a terrible employee. He does not pay attention to commands, does not want to be told what to do. You know, like
Perhaps Merlin would need to be
distracted.
self-employed.
Yes,
Yes.
boy.
He would not be a good employee. But then I was like, you know what? He should be some kind of like cosmetics quality control person, because he loves sniffing cosmetics. Anytime I like change any product that I use, he really wants to sniff it. And also, he can tell exactly what's changed. Like, if I have never shown it to him before, but I like wear a new mascara, he will specifically like sniff just my eyelashes and be like, something is different here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he will sniff exactly like wherever it is I used a different makeup product, he knows and will just specifically sniff that spot.
He's a man with fine tastes.
Oh yeah. So he should be some kind of like cosmetics quality control.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. There was someone else who was saying that her dog would be like, you know how in the Barbie movie Ken is like, my job is beach. My dog would be like, my job is outside. He just like want to be outside all the time, always like barking at whatever's outside, has to be involved with whatever's outside.
Yep, yep.
He would just be like one of those. Do you ever have those like overly concerned neighbors that want to like call you and tell you about your
neighborhood watch? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he would be. He's like, your hedge is 2 inches too wide.
Inspector Merlin, neighborhood watchdog. Okay,
Oh, this also reminded me, because so I saw this thing recently where someone was talking about different like communication styles, and they and this they mentioned this like theory someone had posted online, which is, I don't think it's like it doesn't have any like scientific backing. It's just like this one person's theory about like two basic styles of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the person was writing about how they think there are the people who are question askers and open sharers. And these are kind of different approaches to conversations. And like, as always, it's like most people use both styles, but the idea is like people probably lean one way than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so like question askers is pretty like straightforward, that it's like they are people who in a conversation, they ask a lot of questions. They often will feel like it's rude to just talk about themselves unless directly asked a question. And so they can end up in conversation. So like if they're talking to another question asker, they'll ask questions back and forth, and then they have like a nice conversation. If they're talking to someone who isn't a question asker, they can end up feeling like, well, does this person like even care? They're not asking me any questions. Like, I'm carrying this entire conversation, you know? And then the open sharers, their style is more that they will just offer information, whether it's a story or an anecdote or information about themselves, as a way to kind of propose a topic, which then the other person is welcome to share back. But they feel like it's rude to ask pointed questions, because what if that person doesn't want to answer that question?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of open a topic, and then you can just sort of openly share information or stories back and forth as you are comfortable with. But then when if they're talking to another open sharer, they just kind of can bounce off each other. But if they talk to a question asker, they can end up feeling like, I'm being interviewed and this other person isn't like sharing anything about themselves. I'm carrying this whole conversation, talking. And so it's like just a place where people can get like miscommunication, you know?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, like, I've obviously seen both those people in conversation, but I didn't really think about about it,
Yeah.
and it's true.
Well, do you feel like you have like, do you feel like you're use more of one style than the other?
Oh, I'm for sure an open sharer. For sure. Because I'm very
He's like, I will tell you everything.
well, and I also agree with that, like, where I feel, and maybe this is like a Midwest thing of like, I feel like awkward just being like, I'm gonna ask you a question that because then it feels like pressure of like, oh, you have to get the question. Where if I'm like, oh, I did this thing, and then be like, leave pause, like thinking, oh, you're gonna express like a time that you've experienced this,
Right.
or oh, you don't want to talk about that. Okay, we'll move to a different topic then. So
Yeah.
But my husband is a question asker, so yes.
You have firsthand knowledge of the differences there.
Yes. And now I'm seeing why sometimes our conversations end up going around of like, you're not cheering or you're not asking me about myself.
Yeah.
This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I don't know which one I am.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, like, as you were describing them, Huck, and like neither one made me like, oh yeah, I do that more of the time. So
Yeah. I think that I am definitely more of an open sharer. That I do like. I tend to be very like, look, if I want to talk about something, I'm just going to talk about it. Like, you don't have to hunt me down to talk about a topic I want to talk about.
yeah.
Which was always a thing. I had roommates in college that I like looking back, I'm like, yeah, this was like a problem that we had, because I think one of them in particular was very much like a question asker, and also really liked the dynamic of like being like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, and then she wanted you to chase her to like
yeah.
questions, and I didn't do that, and I think that annoyed her. Because also I am very like, look, if I want to talk about something, I'm going to talk about it one way or another. And if I don't want to talk about it, don't ask me questions about it. Like, I don't want you to try and pull it out of me. And I do think that I sometimes feel like it feels invasive to ask too many questions. Yeah, I think that very often, like, I've used both for sure, but like, I think a lot of times also, if I'm like very much in question asking mode, that's more so in a situation where if I'm talking to somebody that I don't want them to ask me questions and I don't want to share information about myself.
It's a self-defense.
I just control the conversation by asking them a bunch of questions.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like actually trying to have a conversation with somebody and I want to like connect with them, then I'm just like, I'm more of an open share. I'm just like, here's an interesting topic.
Yeah. If I think about it from like the examples of like when it's not working out, I guess maybe I would be more on the side of a question asker, because there are times where I'm like talking to somebody and I'm like sort of, I don't know, offended is too strong a word, but I'm like, they didn't reciprocate. Like, I'm, like, why don't they want to know? Like, am I boring them? Am I like, do they not want to talk to me? So like, if I think of it like that, I might be more on the side of a question asker. And also because when I am sharing, like volunteering information, a lot of times afterwards I'll be like, oh my god, did I talk too much? Like, did I share too much?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So that makes me think I might be a question asker.
Yeah.
Well, and I have this with my best friend is also a question asker, and she's a therapist. So
double whammy.
Yeah. So then I find I'll be like halfway through a conversation with her. I'm like, I have talked this entire time because she's asked a question and then I go and then I'm just like free forming and I'm like expecting her to just come in, but then she's like waiting for me to ask her. And so then I have to tell myself after we're talking for like 45 minutes, I have to be like, okay, how was your week? And I mentally have to tell myself to ask her questions, or she'll spend the whole time just listening to me. And I'm like, oh, well, this isn't really a fair conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen too. And then, yeah, and it's like a weird thing where I'm like, oh, I don't know how to explain to you, where it's like, it's not that I wasn't asking questions because I don't care. Like, I would listen to you tell me about, like, we went grocery shopping yesterday. Like, especially with friends and like people that I'm close with, I'm like, I want to hear about every mundane thing that you've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, but like, I'm much more, kind of expecting, like, you'll just sort of offer that information as we talk. But then sometimes that doesn't happen. And I'm like, okay, ask a specific question.
Yeah. I feel like in just everyday life, I feel like so many of the most useful applications of like these different like theories or styles of like, personality or communication or all that, it's like comparative stuff. I feel like that is where, at least in my experience, where so much of the just like practical use comes in, because I'm thinking about how like with love languages, for example, where it's like, there's people have varying thoughts on like how good the actual like theory is behind it from what I've seen. But I find that it has been really useful when you think about comparing like love languages or like styles, because I'm thinking about how in my like immediate 5-person family, among us, we have at least 4 different primary love languages. And I'm like, wow, this explains like so much of like the various like conflict or disagreement that we've had, because it's like coming from people feeling like they're not being cared about, or they're not being like, it's not that that's true, but it's like, if I recognize a certain thing as affection and nobody's giving me that thing, then it doesn't feel like I'm getting affection, like I'm getting like paid attention to. So it was just something I'm thinking about, where it's like, I feel like, and I'm sure it's different if it's like part of your job or whatever, is to like do these kinds of analysis and things. But for people where it's not your job, I feel like for me, the most useful stuff from various like theories and types of communication and all of that has been just thinking about people having different ones or same ones. Like, I feel like that explains so much or it validates so much,
I mean, I think a lot of these theories like have maybe questionable validity to them, but their usefulness is, I think essentially what you're saying is like, to me, the usefulness is really to help you sometimes understand yourself better, but also really like understand other people, and giving you some kind of like framework and common language to be able to talk about it. And like, it doesn't have to be like the end of that. It can be kind of like, here's the first step to thinking about this concept, and then you can go from there. But like, sometimes it's like hard to kind of start that conversation of like, how or why are we different?
And even just giving like some kind of reasoning that could explain like why this is such a frustrating experience. It's like, I think sometimes, well, I feel like a lot of times it's like, not when you're in it, it doesn't feel like something that you can figure out. Like, you're trying to, you're like, why am I, having this argument with this person again? Like, why, like, we're both good communicators. Why is this so difficult? And then like, I feel like having, like you said, that framework or that sort of context, it can just be really helpful to be like, oh, a possible reason is that even though we are both good communicators, we have completely different ideas of what that means, or of what this like situation needs. So
I found it like helpful to like in work situation. Like, I went long time ago when I was working at a church, and we did like a thing. This is after we've been working for a while together, and we did like kind of a analysis of your like kind of work style. I don't remember which one of these personality ones it was, but it was kind of like your work style. And me and the lady who was the like youth person always just seemed to conflict, and I just thought she doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned out, I was like, when I found out that her like work style is just very like I don't know. I'm trying to think of it. It was kind of like focused on like, instead of kind of like, oh, let's all talk through.
It was like self-contained.
Yeah, that she like is one that like, I like to have control over my thing. I don't like to delegate, you know, all that stuff of like, you know, it was, and that was just kind of like her work style. And I was like, oh, so like we're all over here having this team meeting, and you're like, and it's not that you don't care about what everybody else is saying. It's like, this is just kind of part of your process of like, this is what I can control. This is how I know it's going to get done. And, you know, and then she could be like, oh, you know, maybe I need to like listen more on the team meetings and still be able to do my own thing, but that everybody else is like, or this people are like really into working as a team on the project and all that stuff. And yeah, and it was like finding out our pastor is like, he's just basically an empath, and which makes sense. But then pastors are also like the head of the organization. So then we were like, hey, we need to really help him with the like tasks, because he's and this is why he doesn't do any of his deadlines, is because he's not caring about tasks. He's caring that he's making sure everybody feels okay, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have to remind him of his deadlines. So it was helpful in terms of like working as a team, that when we got to see like, oh yeah, you know, we're not all going to work the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what I'm thinking about too.
I have two things that I want to say, but they're not related completely. But one is just back to the thing about like questions versus open shares. I think it would be very funny to see, or interesting to see, like the percentage of like YouTubers who are open sharers, because that's like the premise of having a channel.
Yeah,
Like, just tell you stuff about my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk.
Yeah.
Into the open space.
Exactly. I'm just gonna say stuff, and then you can comment back to me, and that's great, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for people to ask me questions about my feelings about books.
Yeah.
The other thing though, so about kind of different ways that people work, so there's a different framework that I recently learned about because I read a book that I don't remember if I talked about it in my most recent wrap up, but it is about the way that, maybe I've talked about this before, but the way that people deal with internal expectations or demands versus external expectations or demands. Have I talked about this before?
I don't remember you talking about this.
Okay. My memory is not great sometimes about what
Kara remembers more, but I don't remember.
Imagine this conversation, or did I actually say these words out loud?
You're like, was I rehearsing this or did it happen? Like,
but essentially, it's like you end up with this little like 2x2 matrix, you know. So there's like external demands, internal demands, and so you get 4 types. And so there is there's the upholder, which is the type that is comfortable meeting both internal and external demands, and not comfortable, not meaning like that they're comfortable with the content of every demand that is made of them, but they don't have like just a initial like difficulty or knee-jerk reaction, and they're not just like someone made a demand of me or I have a demand of myself and I can't meet that, you know. They're able to like meet demands or expectations pretty easily. Then there's the questioner, that is able to meet internal expectations, but will push back against external demands. And so they are usually like, it very much matters to them if something makes sense to them. And so they're the kind of people that, like, if you need them to do something, you have to give them a why behind it. Like, explain why they should do it. And it has to make sense to them. But if you can give them a reasonable explanation for it, then they can internalize that because now it makes sense to them and it becomes an internal expectation, and then they can do it. But they are often the people who where you're like, can you just do this? And they're like, well, why am I doing this? Like, now you have to, like, now we have to take an extra 5 minutes for you to explain this to me. But what's also a little funny about them is that they don't like to be questioned because they're like, I have my, like, it makes sense to me, so I'm doing it. Don't ask me questions.
Yeah. Does it also work in the reverse where if, say, I did something or whatever, and I had a reasoning behind it, but then, like, my person, you know, like somebody living with me or spouse or whatever was like, why did you do that thing? And then I'm like, well, I'm explaining, and they're like, I still don't understand, like, why, you know, and for me, I'd be like, well, you don't have to understand, just know that I did it, and I had a and so is it kind of like that other person is like, they need to know the explanation of, like, of what other people do too, or is it just internal?
Yeah, they might. Yeah, I think that it's mostly referring to, like, why they, like, expectations that are on them. But, like, my dad is a questioner, and he also is very, like, anything you do, he's just like, why are you doing this? And I often am just like, because I am.
Yeah. Because it's gonna take me longer to explain.
Yeah.
Just like, can you just like?
I was just talking to my mom about this because we just had a time where I was visiting them, and we were in the backyard, and we found this spot, like, on the fence where a nail was sticking out, and so we were like, oh, we should hammer this in. And my dad was, like, just coming out of the house, and I called to him, like, I was like, hey, can you just give us a hammer? And he went inside and, like, got a hammer, and my mom was like, wow, I'm amazed he did not ask why you needed a hammer, because she was like, usually he would be like, why? Like, you have to explain the whole situation of, like, why are you asking me to get
before he agrees that a hammer is needed.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, he probably didn't ask because he knew I wouldn't answer him. I would just be like, I need a hammer. Give me a hammer, or I'm gonna go get the hammer. I'm not explaining myself.
Yeah.
But that's because that's my personality.
Yeah.
Anyways, but so yeah, so there's a questioner, and that is the thing that I think that if you get two questioners together, they can either, like, it can work well if it's like, well, I understand that you need a lot of information, so I will give that information. Or they could butt heads because both of them are like, this makes sense to me, I'm not explaining myself to you. Yeah. So it depends. And then there's the obliger, who meets external expectations but struggles with internal expectations. So they are often people who, like, if they set an internal goal for themselves or something that they want to do, they have a hard time meeting those goals or, like, you know, reaching those expectations they set for themselves. But if there's another person externally who has a expectation of them, it's much easier for them to meet that. And in the book, they gave examples of, like, a lot of these examples were around, like, exercising, because that's a goal that a lot of people have. And so, like, one of the examples they had was this guy who, he and his friend were both obligers. And so what they would do is at the end of every workout that they did together, they would give each other one of their workout shoes, so that they had to show up to the next one, because they'd be like, well, if I don't show up, my friend can't work out.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
And then I'm disappointing somebody else. Yes.
Yeah.
I see this. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the accountability, you know, like some people are like, you know, it's like that common advice of, like, oh, have a workout partner so that you feel like you can't disappoint that person. And that would work if you are an obliger. It doesn't work if you're like, I don't care. Like,
be disappointed. I don't care. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's that external accountability is really important. And like it's a thing that can be kind of like misunderstood about them sometimes, that other types who are more like internally motivated might feel like, oh, well, if you want to do it, you should just do it. And if you don't actually want it that much, you're not trying hard enough. And it's like, they just have a different way of being motivated.
Yeah.
And they just have to figure out what are the systems for them. They just have to create external accountability for themselves to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish.
I feel like I must be that person because I'm that like purposely invites people over so that I clean my house. You know, like where I'm like, oh, I really should be cleaning the bathroom, but I don't want to clean the bathroom. So I'm going to invite somebody over for dinner, and then I have to clean the bathroom because I don't want to like make them think I'm a mess. But I don't motivate myself to do it for me, even though I see the mess.
Yeah. That could, that, I mean, that is creating, like an external, like pressure. Yeah. They also said that people who are obligers may not always realize that they're obligers because there are so many things in our lives that create external accountability. Like whether it's school or work or family expectations or like other responsibilities. And so they might not realize that there are a lot of systems in their lives that are creating that accountability for them.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's almost like how to me, it seems similar to how so much of society is set up to like benefit extroverts, you know, that like, that like it almost doesn't register that things are that way. Maybe I say as a very much an introverted person. So
and then the last type is called the rebel, that they don't,
I am motivated by nothing.
Well, they don't like to have either internal or external expectations. They're very like, you can't tell me what to do. I also can't tell me what to do.
How do they do stuff?
Well, it's very interesting because so there are kind of two main ways to like motivate, whether it's like them motivating themselves or like how to interact with motivating them from externally. One is to provide like choice, because to them it's like freedom and choice are really important. And so providing essentially like information, consequences, choice, and not consequences like I'm gonna be mad at you, but just like being like, look, here's the situation, this is the information about like what's happening, these are the consequences, like just the literal consequences if like you don't do this thing. You have the choice to do it or not, and it's up to you. And it can be very like, it can be frustrating, I think, or difficult to do that because it's so, we so much want to just tell people to do things instead of giving them choice and hoping they do the right thing.
It's so much extra work too, for like every time there's like a thing that has to be done, to have to come up with essentially like a proposal plan for like 4 different things.
Sounds stressful to be a rebel.
Yeah, but so that's one, is to just be like information, consequences, choice. And then the other thing is to appeal to identity. Because so instead of saying like, well, you should do this just flat, or you should do it because I think you should do this, or like whatever reason, it's, well, you would do this because this is the type of person you are. This appeals to a certain aspect of identity. So they're saying, like, as an example, somebody who is a rebel and they hate like going to events or functions or whatever because they don't like this expectation that they're supposed to go to like these events, or that they have to like show up at this specific time, or like whatever it is that they're annoyed about. They might still like show up to every one of like their kids' school events because their identity is more wrapped up in being a good parent who shows up for their kid than in needing to prove like, well, I can do whatever I want, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a piece of identity instead of, so that's the other way to like appeal to them.
Interesting. What book was this? You said a book?
Yeah, it's called The Four Tendencies.
Now I'm gonna look
I think it's by Gretchen Rubin. It's like blue with a big yellow circle on the front.
I've heard of Gretchen Rubin. What else has she written?
Yeah, I don't remember, but she has another book that's very popular that she wrote. I would not be surprised if you'd heard her name before, but I don't remember what the other book is called.
No, because I know I've heard of her. I've never heard of that. Gretchen Rubin. The Happiness Project. I've heard of that one.
Yeah. Oh, I have heard of that, yeah.
Yeah. And they also said, like, you can kind of lean one way or the other. So, like, if you are a obliger, you can lean a little bit more upholder. So, you know, that might make it a little bit easier to meet some of those, like, internal expectations. But you also might feel more burdened by the expectations of others. You're leaning more towards a type that like meets expectations, whereas, or no. Wait, now I'm trying to remember this. But you could also lean more towards rebel, which, oh yeah, but if they're an obliger who leans more towards rebel, they might be more likely to kind of, even though they're an obliger, they might be more likely to push back and be like, look, leave me alone. You know, don't put expectations on me.
Interesting.
So you can kind of like lean a little bit more one way or the other. You can't, like, a rebel wouldn't lean towards an upholder because they're on opposite sides. Mm-hmm. But you can kind of like go side to side a little bit.
Well, I've just downloaded the audiobooks.
So Kelly will have more thoughts to share on our next one.
Yeah.
Well, I have all these other nonfiction I'm waiting for, but they have long waits, like The Anxious Generation and Good Inside is a really popular parenting book. But like all of them, it's like 15-week wait. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm waiting. I'll listen to this one.
Yeah. I had that happen. I was listening to the audiobook for Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, which is obviously a very well-known one. Yeah. And it had a really long wait time. And so then when it came in, I felt like, okay, well, I need to listen to it now because it has such a long wait time and I've been waiting for a long time. But it was like not a good state of affairs to be listening to that. But like in a way it was very like useful, but there are parts of it that are always going to be intense to read, as they should be.
Right.
Because they're very serious issues. But then there are also parts where I'm like, I don't think this part was originally meant to be. So
yeah, this is too relevant.
Exactly. And so I did like listen to part of it, but it was like sometimes hard to, self-motivate because of like how relevant it was. And so it got like returned. So I had to go back on the wait list. And I did end up finishing it the second time I got it, but it was just like, man, I wish this wasn't topical. That would be great if I did not know what she was talking about. So for these things, at least. Yeah.
Sometimes, those really intense, like nonfiction, I almost like it when they return and then I have like a break in between. So
yeah.
Forced break. Take a moment before I have to get right back into this intense topic.
Yeah. And it's like a forced break, like you said, is like, it's not like you could continue, so you don't feel bad about taking a break. So
yeah, I'm just gonna set this down for like a month while I wait for it to come back.
Yep. I think it did probably end up being good that I didn't read it all at once, because that would be a lot. Like, it was still a lot. It would have been a lot-er.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, the other like nonfiction I'm listening to right now, I wonder if it's due soon. Yeah, I need to keep going, but it's called Fat Talk. But it's another parenting. It's called Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture.
Oh God.
So, I mean, I think as a parent to two girls,
Yes.
I feel like it's an important topic. Like I saw it in a bookstore and I'm like, I really need to read that book because my older one is approaching puberty. She's already started discussing like some of those like I can't eat this or those
Mhm.
things that I'm like, okay, or I don't look in this shirt or whatever, she's starting that and I'm just like, okay, I need to like have some more guidelines because I mean, I grew up
Yes.
in a time when, like people were freely saying those things of like, the moment on the lips, age on the hips or whatever, like
Forever on the hips,
yeah,
yeah.
and I'm like, obviously, I never want to say any of those things to my girls, and I wouldn't, but like, I also don't know what else I could say that is damaging, and like because I was raised in that like diet culture, and I feel like now we're also going back because there was like a
I
whole
know.
time of like body shaming was getting like better, and then now all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'll just take a pill,
I know.
and I'm
I
like,
know.
pills, we don't even know what the long-term effects are, and like, and they're super expensive. Like, it just seems like we're backtracking.
Yeah.
And so I just want to be prepared for that time when they get into like, especially junior high, when I feel like there's so much being told to them.
Yeah. And especially because I think for a lot of kids, that is sort of the first big exposure to that idea because elementary school, like, not that it, unfortunately, not that it doesn't happen at elementary age, but at least I remember that like middle school, like you're changing for PE, and so
Mhm.
like you have just more exposure to that. There are more opportunities for that sort of mindset to be just like normalized for you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And they'll be
that
exposed to like the internet more. Like right now,
yeah,
we have like full control over their internet usage. But when they get to like 13, they're probably going to have a lot more freedom
yeah,
to be on the internet. And it's like, there are just so many hateful people on the internet. And
yeah, yeah.
it's so hard.
That's why like this is such a random like niche opinion connected to this topic. But like I don't follow like costume, like the costume sewist side of like YouTube. I know about it tangentially. Like my sister is really into it and like I know things about it. But I know that there is like this big thing about like all the misconceptions about like corsets and how like they weren't as bad as people say. And like there's which is true, like that the sort of tight lacing was rare and it wasn't for very long, and it like I understand the historical sort of myth busting around that, but I have found that I just really I don't feel like that matters after a certain point. um and like so the example that I always think about is like the live action Cinderella movie, um that like they had the main girl in like a corset because that was I guess the time period that they were doing, and so that sort of sparked a lot more of these discussions of like, yeah, but it's not automatically bad because corsets weren't used the way that we think they are. Like it's not so tied to these like dangerous things that happen because you're trying to be thin. Like that's not as much as what people, it wasn't as much a thing as people think. So like I get that, but like that movie as an example, yeah, they put her in a corset. Also, they CGI'd her waist,
Yeah, it's
and she was
unbelievably.
already tiny. So, like, that is to me a good example of how, like, I don't think you can separate the like historical reality of corseting as not being that big of a thing from our modern day, where like kids as young as like 7 years old are getting eating disorders. Like to me, it just doesn't I don't care. Like after a certain point, I'm like, okay, cool. Historical reality, I get it. If you want to like at like different costume parties and things, like I understand. I think it is important that we are like informed about again these like historical myth busting things. None of that changes my feelings that you cannot have especially a female lead in a huge like studio movie, like the putting her in a corset and also CGIing her waist on top of that, like it is so tied to our society's like toxic body image issues and eating disorders that like I don't think you can write it off as like, yeah, but historically it's fine, so you shouldn't be upset that she was in a corset. Like they're actually like, it's the, I feel like the pendulum has gone so far back the other direction that I have seen people angry at like historical movies where like the lead woman wasn't corseted. Like I know people were really mad at Emma Watson for the Beauty and the Beast live action because she made a point of like, I am not going to wear a corset for this movie, like at all. And people were like, she's really feeding into these like negative stereotypes about like the historical use of corsets and like this is so silly and like it wasn't accurate. And I'm like, doesn't matter. I think her stance that she was taking was a reaction to our time in our view of bodies. And anyway, this was like my TED talk on why I take it really personally when people are like, I don't know, up in arms about people not wearing corsets. Like, I'm sorry to just go off on that rant. I became a free sharer for a moment.
Well, and I wonder if she was also doing it in reaction because the Cinderella came out first. Like she probably was like, if I wear a corset, are they gonna also alter me? And like,
yeah. And it's like in my opinion, there is no way anymore, at least at this point, maybe in the future it's different, but I don't feel like there's a way to separate the historical reality of corseting as not being about, you know, being thin and like body shaming from the way that we view bodies today, and especially like girls' bodies. And like I just don't think like obviously those things are different, but they're connected inextricably at this point. Hi Nina. Yeah, thank you. I have very strong feelings about it and I got very heated. So,
yeah. You're allowed to have strong opinions, you know.
I sure do have strong opinions. Like
yeah. I feel like I had something, but I forgot. So, oh, I know. I was gonna say in terms of like body image, like one thing that I have really appreciated, like that show that I saw yesterday. Obviously they're very small costumes, scantily clothed, you know, because they're at a nightclub. And I was just like so appreciative of the different body types being displayed that on the stage, and I was like, it felt very liberating to like watch, because everybody's like in like underwear basically.
yeah
And you know, like they'll have like the things that are like kind of like the see-through things and the what are the like the tights with the straps. I don't know a lot of the
fishnets and
yeah, but they're all wearing those kind of clothing. But there were people, both the men and the women, of all sizes, and I was like, and they were all like out there confidently dancing and wearing those costumes, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, because like sometimes it's like you see something and it's like, okay, so obviously they put the like bigger sized people in like less sexy clothing because it's like they're saying, yeah, it's such a weird like subliminal messaging almost about it. So that is very cool.
And I've seen that like when I was in high school, I felt like, and I, you know, I don't know that it was necessarily typecasting or whatever, but I saw like there was some girls in my class that had amazing voices, but they never got the role of the like ingenue. They were like Mother Superior and Sound of Music or whatever. And I'm like, what? That girl has the strongest voice in our entire school. Why isn't she Maria? Like, and you know, I saw that a lot when I was in high school, like for those shows. So like, it's kind of, you know, exciting to see people just like, oh, you have the best voice. You are the role of the like this role, and it doesn't matter what you look like. You are fitting the voice of the role.
Yeah, and if the character is supposed to be appealing, you are also going to be dressed accordingly. Like it's not based on what your body shape is or how thin you are or anything. It's
yeah, you're still gonna be up there wearing the like underwear, and you're gonna do it as like you are beautiful because you are. Like so it was very like exciting to see.
That is really cool.
So even in the time of Ozempic, there are places that are still like showing that all bodies are beautiful and allowed to be sexy.
Yep. That is very cool. Okay, I might start wrapping up just because I have something else coming up. But I am so glad we did another craft sprint. Thank you again. I think Huck, you were the one again who's like, let's nail down a day. So you are our designated schedule manager, and I appreciate it so much. So
the problem is that I never know what month I feel like I don't even know that we are almost done with April.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, oh, we just did it. And then it was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, like my birthday was early this month, and it was like the first time I remember being like completely gobsmacked by it. Like I just wasn't paying attention. I was like, oh yeah, like that's a thing that happened. Thank you. It was just funny because like, you know, I am somebody who looks forward to holidays, to my birthday, various things, and I was like, oh yeah, that's in like 4 days. Like when it happened. So yeah, any last thoughts? Everybody be sure to check out Huck and Callie if you haven't already. I have them linked below. I'm trying to think anything you guys want to plug. I am still catching up on wrap-ups and various things. I mean, I guess the only upside of me barely reading is that hopefully it'll take me a lot less time to catch up on wrap-ups than it has before. Because I don't have much, at least for like the last few months when I get there. I won't have much to cover, but yeah, anything that you guys want to like shout out that's coming up or?
Well, a week ago I filmed both my March wrap up and my book haul so far this year. So someday those will get edited and come up.
Someday. Yeah, someday in the future. That's where I'm at, is like one day these will exist.
Yeah, I have a whole list of things that I need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything specific, just, you know, most recent wrap up and all of that. So
sounds good. I mean, speaking of like motivation styles, I feel like most sort of tendencies or personality things, I imagine that those can be very drastically affected by like changes in life circumstances or things. So yeah, motivation has been messy lately. It's been hard. So for me, at least, speaking for me. Okay, so thank you so much, those of you who are hanging out with us. Yeah, we always love doing these. Thank you to people who watch these back later. I know I've heard from several people that, like, especially it's like if you're in an Australian time zone, it's basically like the opposite. Like any time that is good for us is like never gonna work. So I don't know if we maybe in the future we might want to like try to do like an evening edition. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I hope you guys have fun crafting or any other hobbies you're doing. Like I hope you are able to do some hobbies and things that are like just nice for you, like self-care as much as is possible right now. Yeah, all right, anything to add? All right, thank you guys. We will see you next time, which might just be next month because Huck is on it with the scheduling. So we will see you later.